And you know, today we have a special guest speaker, Reverend Charles Cox. And I know Reverend Cox has a history with Elaine. Is he not one of your mentors, teachers? No? Marcia. Thank you, Marcia. How did I ever get that mixed up? I am so sorry. No, for some reason I just had that. So I was going to have Elaine introduce him just because, but certainly it's going to be Marcia. We're having a morning, Marcia, you and I. I am so sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I first had the pleasure of meeting Charles about 10 years ago in 2012 when I started taking classes from the Aspen program in psychic development. And I ended up having the opportunity to join the faculty of that program. And so I got to take classes from Charles. I got to, we also had a really fun experience one weekend of filming a pilot for a reality TV show. And if you want to get to know somebody really well, try filming a reality series with them. Because damn, y'all.
24/7. You're like, I know you better than I want to know you.
Yes. But I will tell you this, the saving grace of that weekend of people elbowing each other out of the way to get in front of the camera and tripping each other in the parking lot and crying because they don't feel they showed well was Charles. And his humor. And his completely, I see this, but I'm not this. Charles was the touchstone for me that reminded me, hey, this is worldly craziness, okay? Enjoy the freak show. But don't be a freak. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the one, the only, Charles Cox.
Thank you so much. That was such a fun weekend, and nobody bought the pilot, so it. And I read this years ago. I don't even know where I read it or what in what context, but it's how nutty people get when cameras are around, right? And I think I've always read that about like politicians in Congress, right? How different they are if they could just be behind closed doors and do their job. But when cameras get involved, but when you're shooting a reality show, people that I thought were just nice people, honest to God, right? And I am, right? Like, is Charles feeling something psychically? I'm like, oh. It was a fun experience, and one that goes in my treasure trove of stories that I like to tell. So what's funny is when you have a lifetime of experiences like this, after a while people are like, these can't all be real. Oh, just, they are. They are. First of all, I'd like to thank Susan for inviting me here today. I've actually spoken here before, years ago, and it's nice to be back. Penny reached out to me and asked me about music, and I said, you go for it. That's not really true. I gave her directions on what I wanted. That's not really true either. If you've been to any of my classes or who's my student that's not my student? What's Elaine? Is that right? Who's the lady that was my student? Elaine. Oh, Elaine. Had you been my student at any point, you'd know that I don't really have a lot of rules. So really, Penny contacted me, and I don't think we've met, or if we have, it's just been briefly. I think she was feeling me out. I'm like, dude, you just do whatever. Here's my topic for the day, and then I'd like you to just do whatever you think fits with that. And Brent, I'd like to thank you for the wonderful meditation. It was beautiful. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a spiritualist minister. I retired a year ago after 30 years of service to my community. Not retired from the work. So to answer your question, we had a small talk as we were walking up the aisle. Susan said, "How do you retire?" Well, you don't retire. I don't know that there are any mediums that actually quit. I just quit being part of the church on a regular basis, and then I get phone calls all the time. So it's been fun being retired for a year, and yet here I am speaking to a congregation. In 2009, I founded the Denver Psychic Development Group here in town. Quickly, we became the largest psychic development meetup group in the world, not in the country, but in the world. A lot of that was because of the people that came to class who are on a similar path to me. Every time Spirit is around, it makes me joyous and happy. And I tell new students all the time that I might not be your teacher, because if you're on a really dark spiritual path, and I don't mean dark isn't. Some people are on heavy spiritual paths. I'm not on that path. And I'm probably not going to be your teacher, because I'm probably going to giggle at the time when I should cry or hug you. I wasn't raised Lutheran, I was raised Baptist. So it's the same thing, right? So people are being hugged by Jesus, but nobody's hugging each other, right? So first time I went to like Mile High Church like 35 years ago, and everyone's hugging, same thing. I'm like, and whenever I'm uncomfortable, my sense of humor kicks in. So then when I'm using the line, usually you have to buy me a drink before you hug me, that seemed inappropriate. And then all of a sudden, nobody wants to hug me. Yeah, it's all very weird. And anyway, I'm a contributing writer to medium.com, which, by the way, has nothing to do with metaphysics or with spirituality. That's just the name of the website, called medium.com. I have 30 published articles over there. And as of today, not as of today, I don't know why I said it that way. And today I read for clients locally, nationally, and abroad. I read for a client regularly in Mumbai, India, and she's 12 and a half hours away. So I'm either reading for her at 7 in the morning or 7 at night, so we can accommodate the 12-hour time change. And I love doing this. If you take anything away from today's service, I hope that you know that you've met someone that's gotten to do a lifetime of what I dig. I dig this. Makes me cry. Well, I meet so many people who don't get that opportunity. All right, not what my service is about. I'm not telling any of this to impress you, but for those of you that are not familiar with me, just give you a little background on who I am and where I'm coming from today. So my topic for the day is connecting with Spirit. And in the last 2 years, certainly during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to think about things we say and things I teach. And, you know, it's real common, I suppose, in this community as well, where we'll tell people, well, you know, you need to go think about that. Go connect with Spirit. But when I'm sitting in my office and I haven't seen a client in 18 months, and at least not face-to-face in 18 months, I start questioning, what do those things mean? When we say those, we're like, you know, you need to go connect with Spirit. What does that mean? So I'm going to connect today, or try to connect the dots, hopefully, on a couple suggestions and ways to connect with Spirit and see if they resonate with you. Before I start, I've already told you that I'm a minister. I invite you, any words that I use that are not in your lexicon, to translate them into something that's useful to you. As a minister, I use the word God. I know some people don't. I use the word Spirit and God interchangeably. I use Spirit, God, and the universe interchangeably. I also sometimes use Great White Buffalo Woman, just to make sure people are listening, right? Having done readings for money for 40 plus years, I guarantee you the energy that I connect in with doesn't care about the name we use. It cares about the connection we make. So, step one that I offer out to you is that I want you to know that what you're seeing is God. So I love in your Declaration of Principles, I will find it, that God is in everyone and in everything. That right there has to be a lesson that's a lifelong lesson to learn. because that's all nice to sit in church and have that thought. But when someone's up in your business, whatever your business is they're up in, then you're like, you ain't no, I don't know where you're from, but you ain't from no God. And loving people, here's my thought on this, that it's easy to love the people that are lovable. Oh, shit. Sorry. I'm not in a Baptist church, so I probably won't get struck by lightning. But if I get struck by lightning later, I want everyone to just go, because maybe he is a vengeful God. Okay. So the first step in connecting with spirit is knowing that everything that you're seeing is God. Even the stuff that we don't understand, even the stuff that we find objectionable, is God trying to work things out. And I want to share with you one of my favorite stories. Some of you may have heard this before, some of you may not. But I love this story. It comes from the Hindu tradition. And they tell a story about these workers in a farm field who are just doing their business, working on the farm. And the farm is divided by a road. And at one end of the road appears God. And everyone who sees this knows that they are looking at God. And God moves gracefully down this road between these workers. The funny thing is that God's got this weird hat that catches the light differently. So the people to God's left see like a reflection of green light. And the people to the right of God see a reflection of red light. Green light, red light, I forget them backwards. But they see different color lights. God moves down the road and disappears. All of the farm workers know that they have just seen God. And they begin to share their stories with one another. Like he was beautiful in his presence. I could feel his magnificentness and his glory, and I could feel the love, and I felt loved. And that red hat, and some woman shifts her weight to her right hip and says, red hat? It was a green hat, and it's on. That's how the Hindus explain all the different religions. We've all seen it, but, right, Lutheran, damn Protestants, right? Got some Catholic energy in here? That would be fun to play with, right? Damn Luther knocking on my door. What the hell? Okay. So there are times where there are things going on around me that I think about that story. And I think, I am probably seeing God in ways that I don't understand God. And since I am not God, there might be things afoot that I don't understand in this moment. And for those of you that, are older, I can look back along the path of my life and see that there were things that happened that at the time didn't seem all that great, that later had good consequences to them. So there might be things happening in the moment now that don't seem positive that later will then bear fruit. So number one, connecting with spirit, is knowing that you're seeing God. Don't let yourself feel separate. If there is a devil, if there is some kind of dark energy like that, what it does, that's the voice. Marcia, you're separate from God. Now we giggle about that, but in our loneliest moments, I'm asking, separate from God? That's not true, but it feels that way. So you stay centered. Step one, connection with spirit. You stay centered in the idea that I am part of God. I am part of God. Everything and everyone around me is God. I shared with Penny that I was first in this church 41 years ago when it was Temple of Harmony. And one of my very first teachers worked out of this church. She was a minister here. And she took me for a hike. This is how time changes people, right? So I'm probably 20. I don't want to go for a damn hike. Let's be honest, I'm 60. I don't want to go for a damn hike. But at 20, I didn't want to go for a damn hike. So she's talking to me. She's picking up rocks, and she's reading the rocks and the history of the rock, and the rock is talking to her. And I'm thinking, this lady's nuts. Now I wish she were around. Now I'd like to have those kind of talks with her, right? I know. That's okay. Usually my services turn into a half minister service and a half stand-up thing. So you're just the lady with the drink in the front row. Let's just be honest. Right? You tell it the way it is. Right, okay. That's okay. It's a free-for-all. So don't let yourself feel separated. Don't let yourself get separated or feel separated. And when you do, part of being in the moment, part of being spiritually aware is having some sense that you're floating away from being connected to spirit. You have to have an awareness that you are separate. And when you do, then you just float back. Don't kick yourself in the butt. We got enough people that are making everything in the world is bad these days. Bad food, bad people, bad politics. Well, there is bad politics, but okay. Got to heal that. It's God everywhere. Okay. But you have to bring yourself back into that. Being on a spiritual path oftentimes feels solitary because we're having a connection with something that sometimes we understand and sometimes we don't. I was out of town last week on business, and I had the craziest experience out of town. And the experience makes no difference, and I'll tell you why in a second. I just had some crazy revelations. And I realized that there are times where Spirit is speaking to me for me. So I came home. How was the trip? Oh, I had this happen, and this happened, and this happened. And the person I'm talking to, their eyes kind of glazed over, and they said, so pancakes? Right, that's what I said, what? And they said, well, so you're having breakfast with this person and you had pancakes? Got it. My truth, my revelation, my download in that moment was not about, it wasn't for anyone else. So this is another way that you can stay connected. When you have an aha, I think sometimes we look for affirmation, right? I had this experience. Do you think that was God? Right? Now this is great if you look like a nice lady. I hope I'm pointing to a nice lady. Everyone else is like, oh Jesus, okay. See, I don't even know you. I am going to get struck by lightning. I just want you to know. If you're a nice lady, you say to me, yes, of course that was God. Thank you. Right on cue. $20 stapled under the seat like I promised. Okay.
I knew it was somewhere.
But the world is not filled with nice people. And many times we'll say, I think I had this sign from a loved one or from a spirit guide or from God. And people pee all over that. I don't know another way to say it, right? You cannot put your faith in them. You have to stay connected to spirit. And it's a solitary path because this is easy to talk about when it's people outside of our family. But what if these are people inside of our family? What if this is a spouse, right? Oftentimes the people we choose as mates are not on the same path we're on. And even if they're on the same path, they're not on the exact same path. So you can have this whole experience about pancakes, which by the way was my spouse. I'm like, did I tell you that United lost my luggage? I mean, really, that's the only thing they cared about was, but they found it, that's it. So being connected to spirit, stay on this thing, stay connected, stay in your presence and your connection with us so that you know that you're connected. Keep your own counsel. Step number 2, if you're not meditating, don't let the word scare you. If you're not meditating, find some way to meditate. 5 minutes a day, I don't think you have to spend a lot of time with this. It's a check-in thing. It's a way of opening the door to spirit. I want signs. Give me a sign. Give me a sign. And just from all the years of teaching I've done and counseling I've done, I think people were worried that spirit has emotions like people, right? Meaning this, that if you haven't checked in with your spirit guides in 10 years, that they're going to connect in with you and they're going to be like, really? Now? Seriously? I've been sending lightning bolts and now you want to talk to me? Right? It's okay, right? Connect in. And if you need to, just say, look, I know it's been a while since I connected in. But connect in. Find some way. Do it every day if you can. Do it every other day, but do it regularly. This will help you stay more in your spiritual walk, in your spiritual path, by feeling that you're connecting in. You know what? Sometimes it's just the connection. I know oftentimes we want signs. I want a sign that I'm connected. I read for a woman, this is no lie. I read for a woman, this has got to be 20 years ago, who was able to manifest signs better than I'd ever met in my life. So I'd give her advice in the reading and she'd say, I don't know, I'm going to ask Spirit to give me a sign. So she called me the next day. There's a burning arrow in my front yard. What do you think? And I'd say, well, that sounds like a sign. She goes, I don't know. I'm going to ask for a sign that that's a sign. So sometimes connecting in with spirit is just connecting in. Just feel that connection. Know that you are loved and connected. I will tell you that looking back across my life, I've been involved in this all of my life. I was anathema to my parents because I'm born in a Baptist family, and I, from the beginning, like at 10 years old, I'm like, really? This? I think at an early age, what I thought, and this would be just a 15-year-old boy, that if I could learn metaphysical principles, if I could learn how to be connected, that my life would be better. So I think probably on balance, my life is better, but being on a spiritual path does not get you out of harm's way. You know, caca pasa, for those of you that speak Spanish, right? Caca pasa, and you can't get out of the way. And that's part of the lesson as well. I've already gotten bleeped once, I can't say it again. I won't get invited back. In my home church where I'm ordained, one of our guiding principles, and this is all wordy because for those of you that know old spiritualists, they're just all wordy as all get out. I say that lovingly because I'm a spiritualist minister, but it is what it is. One of the declarations of principle is the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. So I love someone who comes into my classes and they're my age and they're like, I'm never going to catch up. You don't have to catch up. You don't have to catch up, right? This is not a race. There's nothing about the other side that resembles anything on this side. You don't get to the other side and spirit, some spiritual version of St. Peter is standing there being like, oh, Stephanie, you could have done so much more. Oh my God. And you're like, but I did a lot. And you're like, but I don't know. Did you though? We worry about that. You don't have to catch up, right? And the people that are not on a spiritual path are as much on a spiritual path as we are, just in a different way. Because God is in everyone and everything. Number 2, make some regular connections to spirit. Invite spirit in to work in your life. The other thing for me, and if this resonates with you, fine. I think as a young guy from a troubled home, I had to work crap out. See, I'm not going to get edited again. I had to work crap out. So it never occurred to me to ask for help. And I find this in spirit. We get knee deep in our life and we forget to ask spirit guides, to ask healing angels and healing doctors to step in and intercede. Because I think on some level we don't feel worthy. I don't know why that is. And I speak to you from my place on that because I'm all over that. I think I'm always afraid that God only has so many checks in a checkbook for me, and that maybe he's written too many checks, and that the next time I need a favor, he's gonna be like, dude, really? So clearly you can tell I'm 60 because all my spirit guides and God all have like a Valley Girl bent to them, right? Really? What'd you do with the last favor I gave you, huh? Right. Some horrible passive aggressive parent. I think I'm going to let you just muddle through this one. All right, step number 3. After incorporating your everyday or checking in regularly, I'd like you to think about being in spirit all the time. All the time. Something magical happens when this connection, when there is no longer a send and receive, send and receive, send and receive, but a continual connection where the energies run back and forth like this. I've come to call this, it's everyday mediumship or it's natural mediumship. It's something that happens all of a sudden you are present with people and you are sharing something that is touching them. Now, here's the deal. If you got a big ego and you want to get credit for this, you're probably not. If you want to touch people's lives, connect with people, communicate with people, this is the path to go. Tell you a story. 25 years ago, I'm sure everybody has their own version of this, but I had made some bad decisions. Whew, where was God those days? I had no money, and I'd never not had any money, which made it sucky or even worse. So one day I'm at King Soopers buying groceries, and I was right down to, I knew exactly how much I could spend, and I had to get kitty litter and cat food, and I had to put groceries in the house. And I'm standing in line waiting to check out, and I am mad. I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at myself that I'm in this position. I'm mad at the universe. Not that it did anything, but you know, that the universe doesn't usually answer back, so you can point fingers and do like this. And choir of angels is like, he's pointing again. Okay, I don't see. So I'm mad. I'm in line at King Soopers and I'm mad. And I glance over and this woman, older than me, but I couldn't tell you how old. I couldn't tell you what she looked like, but she smiled at me. And in that moment, I heard a voice say, everything's going to be okay. That was my first experience with natural mediumship, with everyday mediumship. She might have been hitting on me. I wouldn't have noticed that either. But the message I got out of this was that you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. So when you're able to incorporate your connection with spirit into your everyday life, this is how you touch people's lives. You're going to connect with people. You're going to talk to them. You're going to share a message with them that you won't know where that came from. They won't know where that came from. And they probably won't remember you. Because in that moment, I am God. God is working through me, and I am speaking a message directly to them. Because I've been in this community a long time, so I can point fingers because I've been this guy, right? My spirit guide's talking to your spirit guide. Right?
What do they say?
I know.
What they say?
I know exactly what they say. But genuinely, heart to heart, when you can share a message with people, it makes an impact. It touches people's lives. And so I invite you to, open yourself up and realize, to recognize that God is all around you and to make regular connections with God, regular check-in, and then work toward bringing this in all the time so that it just blesses your life. You can be the blessing, right? And then a whole bunch of this stuff just doesn't make any difference. That's my takeaway with this. We come into this world which is a physical world. I'm in a physical body, and just those confines alone bring my attention all the time to you are separate. I feel separate. I look separate. You look separate. When you can walk in that space, you can be the blessing. You can be the medium you always wanted to be and just share messages, uplifting messages from Spirit without even knowing that you're doing it. And reaching that place, or at least knowing that I am occasionally in that place, it really is comforting to me that I can offer this, because I think along the way there have been a number of people who have done that for me. And now it's kind of my way to maybe pay this back or pay it forward to other people to demonstrate to them what this looks like. So I encourage you to work on connecting with Spirit even more than you do, and toward working and walking in this and sharing your light and your love with the world. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.